Well, welcome everyone. We are here at Workspace in Hollywood. Every month, we feature an artist, a local artist in the community from the South Florida. And this is really important to us because we want to make sure that our voices, our stories are being heard, and then we also have a great platform where our authors can just get some love. I myself am a writer in my heart, not necessarily published as prolifically as you are, Shevis, but yeah, we love our Meet the Authors. We do it once a month on Mondays. You can come out, you can support our authors, get to know them. They're here in the community, and we just want to make sure that we're showing love and support to our authors. So I'm really honored today that we have Shavas, who is an amazing comic book artist. He's an artist, period. You'll see his murals all around South Florida. But he's a comic book artist. He's a digital animator, award winning.
Award winning, yes.
Award winning.
Yes,
So we're
yes.
gonna. Well, if you were here in person, you would get a nice little streaming of it, but you're not gonna get that part. But we'll get the conversation to just hear a little bit about the Whole Armor comic book series. And I love the fact that your work is rooted deeply in your faith.
Yes,
In your
absolutely.
faith, and you say that out loud. Your company, Painting with Faith,
Yep.
Whole Armor comic books, everything is rooted in your Christian faith and beliefs. So thank you again, Shabazz, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before I ask any questions, you want to just give another intro, high level, a little bit about who you are, how we got here, and then I've got some questions about the comics that I've read.
Sure, absolutely. So again, my name is Shevis Davis. I'm the author, artist, and creator of the Whole Armor series. At this point, we have a lot of things going on. We have the comic books, we have coloring books, we have audio books, we have gospel music, and now we're entering to the animation realm where we're gonna have our first Black Christian animated series in the world. All right, so y'all stay tuned for that. Y'all stay ready. And really, this journey started when going to church as a young person. You have the song leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the preacher, you have the ushers, you have all of these individuals that's taking part in the service, but you can never find the artist, right? And so I always wonder, like, man, how could I use my gift? I can't do a praise dance. I'm not a singer, I preach sometimes, but I'm not a preacher, right? I help with ushering, but I just really want to know how to navigate my gift as an artist and serve the people of God, serve God, represent God with my gift. And so it came to a point where I was a teacher at a school, and I would always go in the classroom and I say, any of you guys ever read your Bible or ever been to church? And out of 30 kids, maybe one or two kids will raise their hand. It's like, man, really, kids don't go to church no more. And so they was like, Mr. Davis, we would want to go, but our parents don't take us. And I said, well, it's got to be a way to talk to these kids, because I believe the Bible is not just about being churchy. I believe it's a book of power that's going to influence you to be a hopeful and faithful person in your life overall.
Yeah.
And so, that was the message I wanted to convey to the young people. And so from that, the Whole Armor was born. I love action. I love comic books. I love, superheroes.
Right.
And I love God. So I said, if I can combine that in some way, boom. And that's what I did.
I love the medium of a comic book, especially. I mean, we're seeing, the emergence of the comics with the Marvel series and everyone really getting into the superheroes. And I think we've always seen that, but like somehow I think COVID and post-COVID era, there's been just a major resurgence of that. There's been a lot of thought around what does it mean to be a Black animator, and how you can access this material. And I'm glad you brought up being an educator. I used to be a teacher as well. One of the things that I realized, especially my students who were struggling with reading, I was an English teacher. If I gave them a graphic novel, it was something that they could engage in because they had both pictures.
Right.
The writing was a little bit, I don't want to say simplistic, but it was like in shorter chunks.
Right.
So they could kind of understand what was going on and didn't feel like something they couldn't access. They were really excited about that. Can you talk a little bit maybe about how people are reacting, because you've got it in this medium that is very visual. Listen, don't get it twisted. Let's read some of these comic books, and the words in there are, you have to have a pretty decent vocabulary to kind of understand
Absolutely.
to what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but the pictures also help you do some context clues, etc. So, I would
Exactly.
love to hear a little bit more about that.
So I was a struggling reader, all right, growing up, and I hated reading. And it wasn't because I hated reading, because reading was the thing to hate. It was because I didn't like what I was reading.
Mm.
And so every Sunday, my dad would make me read these books, and I don't know if you know about it. It was called Reader's Digest.
Yes.
And so every Sunday, he said, "You got to read a whole, story from this book." And I would just read it every Sunday. I'm like, I used to struggle to get through it.
Yeah.
And so one day, my mom took me to Publix, and I went over to. This is gonna date. The story is gonna date us. But I went to Eckert's, right,
Oh, yeah,
right
yeah.
next door to Publix.
Oh my God, Eckerd Drugs. Just funny. That was actually one of my first jobs when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Was working at Eckerd Jobs while they were being sold to, I think, Rite Aid. So we were
Yeah.
helping change over the inventory.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just
Yeah,
that's
so-
how old school we are.
Right. So I went over to Eckert's, and I seen my first comic book, the first comic book I ever seen in my life. And I'm like, I knew who Spider-Man was, but I had never seen a comic book. And it was a picture of Spider-Man on this comic book, and he had getting beat up by this android or something. And it just it's still in my mind so clear, like, wow, look at this book. So I ran back to my mom. I said, "Can I have $1 to buy a comic book?" She was like, yeah, here, take it. So I ran back over and I bought my first comic book, right? And I read it, and I realized that I like reading because I wanted to see how the story was going to unfold. And so with that said, it became a major impact in my life on reading, because now I have, I'm buying comic books every week. After that one instance, I bought comic books every week. Every time we went to, Publix, every time we went shopping every week. And so, like you said, this it's not simplistic, but you have a shorter read. When
Yeah.
a person like me who struggled in reading or don't like reading see a long paragraph, the pages start to do like this to your eyes, and you're like, oh no, I can't take it,
Yeah.
And so when it's maybe a picture and then a picture, word, it does a better thing for a person who may struggle in reading or like to read. And so with that medium, I wanted to be able to get kids who never read the Bible a new way to read it, right? Because the books are infused with the scriptures.
Yes, they are.
But not only that, it shows how the scriptures can come to life when you read it with power. And so that was the goal of, making the comic book, because it's a medium that, people love. And if people struggle reading the Bible, maybe this may be an easier concept for them to understand.
Yeah, okay, so I'm glad you brought it up. So obviously the scriptures are infused, but so are like the deadly sins are
Yeah.
sort of infused in there as these monsters that are attractive, and then you go through a lesson, and towards the end our hero or heroine goes through a lesson in an artful journey.
Yeah.
So you can just talk a little bit about the importance of, one was like lying. I think another one was vanity that I read, and some others. So basically, the seven deadly sins were on there.
Sure. So the concept of the book, the whole armor, is about people who have social emotional challenge, struggles, and sins that manifest into demons. And so they must go into a spiritual realm or mental realm to fight that demon, to get their real lives back on track. As we know, what happens in the spiritual realm also is manifested into the physical world. And so that's what the book is about. And so in order to defeat the demon that they're struggling with, they have to put on the whole armor. The cool part about the whole armor is that it reflects the culture of the person or the person's individualism.
Yeah.
So you have, the black character, he's more like a hip hop type character. The Hispanic character has a matador armor. The Asian character is like a ninja / samurai. The Indian girl has an Indian type of dress. And so each armor is different for a different person, because we all fight, different ways. And so with that said, it's imperative that they understand what they're fighting against, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, whatever it is, and defeat that demon to overcome what's
Right.
happening in their real life.
Love that. So, well, you're a father.
I am.
Okay, so you talk about what influence being a father has helped in shaping the whole Armor comic book. And if you want to talk about how your boys react to the series, if they react to it.
Yeah. So overall, the thing about having kids is they have no filter, right? And they're going to be your biggest critics. They're also going to be as iron sharpen irons, the thing that's going to sharpen you the most, all right? Because they're going to tell you straight up, how they feel about it. And so when I first introduced it to them, they would tell me what parts didn't make sense, or they didn't understand, or it was lame, so to speak. And so they like the concept of it, and they would just tell me how I should further introduce different things.
Right.
Should this character have a superpower? Should this character make it to this next level in a different type of way? And so my job as a father was to always try to impress them with the books. So I would write it with them in mind to be like, okay, Dad, that was great. Okay, Dad, I like this part, or I like this character, or I like that costume, or whatever. And so that's the influence that they had, because you always want to impress your kids and make them, make them proud. Usually it's the reverse,
Yeah.
but as a parent, you want to make your kids proud
I
too.
love that you said that. That's great. You
Yeah.
want to make your kids proud
Yeah.
too. So one of the things, so video good?
I don't know if it's still recording. It looks kind of crazy.
It does. What's up, video? Oh man. But we'll keep going, right?
Yeah.
So to see what's
Yeah,
up.
it's my son right now. How's it going, Dad?
See, look, dang, son wants to know what's up.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I'm glad. Okay, so son just texted you. That's perfect, because one of the things I noticed in the front of the comic books were the shout outs to all the other creators, the editors. And then there was a section called colors. I wanted to, as someone who's not a comic book person or a visual artist in terms of painting and stuff, what was the color section about? And then I noticed that the majority of the people had the last name Davis.
Yeah.
So this is a family affair.
Absolutely.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So the way my family operates is once Dad starts something, everybody's got to get involved, right? That's just the way I operate with anything. I'm the biggest. I don't say the biggest entrepreneur in my family, but I'm the one that kind of do all of these nuances in our family, or starting something new or doing something different. And so, when I first started becoming an entrepreneur, I realized that family has to be involved, because family is going to be the name, right? So I wanted the Davis name to mean something. I don't know my grandfather from my dad's side, so I never met him. I never seen him. I don't know what he looks like or anything. So the name really starts with my dad, and then my two brothers, and then from there, that's going to be at my sons. So I wanted to create a legacy that goes beyond of what was before us, And I heard a quote the other day that says, Bruce Lee said, "You want to live so that you're always remembered," right? And so that's the goal and what I want to be able to do. So there's no way to do that if you don't involve the other people that have your name. And my parents, taught me to be a Christian. My parents always supported me as an artist. And so I want to make sure they're a part of all the moves that I make as well. So of course my mom and dad is involved. They always supported what I'm doing. They always tell people what I'm doing. My wife and kids also have to be involved. All the books that's in sleeves, we put those in there together.
Okay.
That takes time. The comic books don't come in the sleeves in the back. We manually put them in there together. I have the kids pass out flyers when we do events. So everybody's fully involved with what I'm doing. And then again, if you listen to the audiobooks, all of my family voices are in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the audiobooks can be listened on any streaming platform where you listen to any podcast or anything, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Pandora. You can listen to the books, issues 1 through 4, 1 through 5. And so my mom's voice is on there. When we watch the film, you'll hear her as well. I'm doing a voice, wife doing a voice, kids doing voices. So everybody's involved with, the comic book series, because all of us, when we all rise, we all gonna rise together. And so I wanted to make sure everybody understood that it was a family thing. And now I want to inspire people to know, get their family involved as well.
I love that. So talk to me, what does it mean when you give people credit for colors? I'm curious about what that
Okay,
is.
so comic books are made in parts. So everybody has a job. So a pencilist or a penciler is the person that draws it. And then you have the writer. I'm the writer of the books. I got some co-writers, that write the book. The next thing is the colorist, which is the person that actually colored the pages.
Okay.
So most people don't realize how long it takes to do a comic book. And this is I want to put this out there. People that write books and novels, they can pat themselves on the back very well. But to write a comic book is actually doing like 3 jobs. Because while you're typing a novel, you can backspace, re-edit, backspace, re-edit, and then that page is done. When you're doing a comic book, you have to take the words out, redo the bubble, take the words out, redo it's 5 steps to just make one edit.
Wow.
And so when I submit the thing to my editor and they make all these changes, it may take me, where you can backspace and be done in 5 minutes, it'll take me maybe 2 hours.
Wow.
So just think about writing a novel and then drawing every page of the novel.
Wow.
That's basically what a comic book is. I have to draw every page. So people don't know, it takes me 8 hours per page
Oh, wow.
to do the comic book. So it takes that long because I'm drawing, I'm coloring, editing, and then rewriting the page, then adjusting it, putting it on. So it takes about 8 hours per page, and I've been doing that for like 15 years now. But it's a long process to do a comic book, and so each part is done by a different person. So if I'm doing a page, I'll tell my kids to finish coloring, and then I'll put the details at the end. So they'll do the base color, and I'll come on and do the details.
Mm.
And so the colorist, I add my niece because she's an artist. My sons, I'll have them do a page or two, and I say, if you do it, you get credit. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I want my name in the book. And so,
That's right.
do things like that.
I love that. So what style would you call your comic books? Like in terms of how you're drawing, and like the colors seem very bold and
Mhm.
rich.
I don't know what the style is called. It's just the comic book style. It's the way that I draw. Growing up, I used to tell all my friends are artists. I used to tell them, man, I don't really have a style. It was like, your style is the way it looks. It's different than all of ours, so it's your style. Like, yeah, but it just looks so regular. And it's like, but that's your style. It looks how it looks. So it's not a very particular style. It's just I wanted to make sure that it has an ethnic feel. I want the characters to really look like they're not just bland characters. I don't want them to look square. I want to make sure that whatever features they had is accentuated and represent the culture of different ethnicities and different people of color. And this comic book is the only comic book that you'll find where it's multicultural Christian comic book. If you look at a lot of Christian content, it's either all white or it's either not catered to people of color, right? And so, or it's not up to par with quality. And I wanted to make something that was for people of God and people that's trying to understand God, or just people that love good content,
Yeah.
to enjoy something like this and not be corny. All right, a lot of Christian stuff that you read may just be corny, or it's in a box, or you can't really relate if you're not a Christian. But I wanted to be relatable on all facets and make sure that it can appeal to everyone visually and then with stimulation when they read it.
Yeah. Love that. So why don't you talk a little bit about, but I know you had like a camp this summer where you were helping students be digital animators. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about, you are an educator, you do Paint with Faith, how much you pay it forward into the community, and then the importance of having more digital animators that look like you and I out here, and understanding that this can be a profession for students to really think about and explore.
Absolutely. When I was leaving high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I kept looking at all these papers, and there was nothing really that piqued my interest. And so I always used to check computer science. I love computers, I love science, but I didn't know what computer science was. It just seemed like two things that I liked that went
Put
together.
together, yeah.
So I would always check until an art professor came to my art class and told me about art school. And so he said, listen, we're doing this art program. It's brand new. It's called the Visual Honors Art Conservatory. You'll have honors classes as an artist, and we're going to pay for you to go to school for 2 years. After he said that, I was sold. It was at Miami-Dade College, and I said, I'm going to do this. This is going to be my path. In between that time, my friend Brandon, the one that you met,
Yeah.
and my other friend Brian, we all took a trip with Brandon's mom to Savannah College of Art and Design. And so we took a trip out there to look at their comic book program, because I've been making comic books since I was in the 6th grade.
Okay.
And so I went to look at their comic book program, take a tour of the school and all those things, and I was really impacted, and I really wanted to go to the school. And so I said that's where I was going to go. But when this professor came, he said you can go to school for free. I was like, good, I can get my basis classes out for free and then just do my last 2 in comic books. But when I got to SCAD, I started with the comic books, and I realized that animation was the route that I really wanted to go, because I want the characters to move. And so I changed my major to animation, and of course, in most classes, it wasn't people that looked like us, right? And so in most cases, I was the only one in those classes. And once I learned how to do animation, once I started creating animations, my professors loved the style that I had. It always looked different. The way that I would approach the lessons was different. And so when I came back, there was no animation jobs for me. And so that's when I became a teacher, right? And so now that I've completed, 10 comic books, I know how to create comic books. But I'm a teacher. So now it's time, once you've done it, to bring it back to the people so they can learn it. And so now we take, where kids struggle with literacy and people who love art, and we bring those two together for kids so they can learn how to read and write. Once a person wants to write something, they have to know how to read it as well.
Yeah.
So we put those two together, and then they love art as well. So now we can teach kids how to read and write, and we can teach them how to build a story and put pictures to go with it. So we teach kids how to make comic books now, and also animation. We take the comic books that they make, and then we bring them to animation form as well.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that because it's so interesting. When oftentimes when I'm talking to the youth and more or less high school, college, they think that they have to think separately. Art is in one corner, technology is in the other. So can you talk more about the marriage between art and tech, especially as it relates to animation, but just in general? I think there's lots of cohesion there between
yeah.
art and technology.
Absolutely. One thing that sold me on SCAD is when I went to the the art and animation, I guess, building, right? And this probably is like a nerd's dream, an artist nerd's dream. I would look down the hallway and just imagine a long hallway, maybe about 30, 40 feet, right? One side was all PCs, and the other side was all Macs, right? And you like, I can choose whichever computer I want to use, and it was all for animation. And I said, wow, they dedicated so much time and energy for what people love to do, and it sold me because the whole building was about art and creativity and tech.
Yeah.
So the best thing about this new age of animation is the way we used to do it before is we had to draw it on paper, bring it into a camera, take a picture of that sheet, move the sheet, take another picture, move the sheet, take another picture,
okay.
move the sheet, and so that's how we manually did it. And so just imagine doing that process, and this is just what they call scratch animation, which is very sketchy. You have to put it into the computer, then watch it, see what you messed up on. Now you have to take it back out, redraw it.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's an extensive process. Redraw the sketchy one. All right, and then the same thing again to see if you got it right. Once you've done that, you have to take each drawing that you did and retrace it in a neat, clean line, and then do that process again.
Oh wow.
Then you gotta take each one of those pictures and then color them and do that same process again. So the analog way of creating animation, and you have to show respect to Walt Disney in the beginning, and to Hanna-Barbera, and to Looney Tunes for the process of what it does to take animation. It's a long, extensive process. And so now in this new age of animation, we can do animation on a program called Procreate on your iPad.
Okay.
And be able to animate and do all the cleanup drawing and coloring all in one little
Oh, wow.
piece. So
Okay.
you can take a whole animation studio like we used to have, and you have it right on your
Right
iPad.
on your thing. Wow.
And so the tech part about it is very important, because where I didn't have, the reason I didn't do animation for such a long time is because I didn't have access to do it. But now that I can do it right on my iPad in my house, you can be able to create all types of animation right at home, and kids can also have the access.
Right, yeah, the accessibility sounds so important.
It's very
so
important.
didn't even think about that from a technological standpoint, how accessible things are now. They have the tools in their hand, whether it's a tablet,
Exactly.
iPad, etc. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. So what is next for the Whole Armor comic book? You mentioned that there's 5 books in the series. Is that also 5 episodes related to that, or how does that work? Can you tell me the marriage between
Sure.
the episodes, the actual comic book, and then what's next on the horizon?
So as we said, the comic books and animation. Well, animation is a very extensive process. So just so the viewers know, it takes 12 frames to do 1 second of animation.
Wow.
Right. And it's 24. It's really 24 frames for the second, but you kind of double it up depending on the speed that you want it to be. So when you see animators do slow motion, it's actually double the work because you're drawing increments. And so it takes. I'll give you this example. For my college final exam, I had to do a 1-minute animation. It took me 9 weeks to do by myself. And so animation is very expensive. It takes $2,500 on a low level to do 1 minute of animation. So I pretty much bankrolled the whole series the episode that we're gonna watch, and so it costs over about $50,000 just to do 1 episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a long process of raising money, making money, and then chipping down each little step to get your dream out, right?
Yeah.
So I did the major investment up front so I can have the major investment on the end. And so the goal is to do animated series. If I can do 10 episodes, or when I do 10 episodes, it'll be one from each book. So it's actually 10 books, but the final book is actually 4 parts. So issue 7 is actually 7, part 1, 2, 3, and 4, because I was writing it and I just couldn't stop, and it came out to 80 pages. And so I said, an 80-page comic book, let me break it into 4. So 20, 22. Like the rest of the book's about 20 pages. So I
Yeah.
said, we'll do 20, 20, 20, 20. And then, it made it better because 10 is a good number anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the first episode is actually based on issue number 1. It's not all the parts of issue number 1, but it'll give you a good synopsis of what issue 1 is about, and you get to see how it can come from a comic book form to an animated form. As you know, with bringing things from books to screen, it's always going to be some
Yes, of
variation.
course.
And so this is a prime example of what we're going to do.
Awesome. So we're going to screen it here. Is there a way for people to purchase and/or screen it in their personal homes, or is that's coming?
No, that's coming. So they have to come out to events like this to be able to see it. And
Gotcha.
we've been in over 25 film festivals this year alone. We got 6 awards and 6 nominations and a couple other features as well. And so we've been doing pretty good. We're all over the world now. We've been in Europe, we've been in the Caribbean, all over the United States, and so we're been in Australia as well, shown in Australia. So the book and the animation has been all over different continents at this point. So our goal is to get a streaming platform to pick us up, and you guys be able to see it whenever you want.
That's great. Congratulations, my
Thank
brother.
you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And then for the actual comic book series, they go to your website. How do they purchase that?
They can purchase the comic book online, the Whole Armor comicbook.com. Real simple. Just remember the Whole Armor. Don't put of God. Just put the Whole Armor comicbook.com, and you'll be able to find it. You can also find it on any of our social media the same way, the Whole Armor comic book. And even if you Google the Whole Armor comic book, or go to anywhere you listen to music, just search that, the Whole Armor comic book, and you'll be able to find and listen to it as well.
Awesome. So before we screen, is there anything that you want to tell us, set us up for?
So if you're a lover of animation, this is great. If you're a lover of Christian media, you're gonna love this. And the very cool thing about this is, and I'll tell you the story about faith. All right, I'm a major faith person, right? I believe that I would call myself a faith athlete. All right, because you have to exercise your faith in order for your faith to grow. Whenever I teach a class, I teach, if you're gonna lift little weights, you're gonna get little muscles. You lift big weights, you're gonna get big muscles. Faith is the same way. You ask for little things, Lord, can you bless me with $10? You can get the $10, but it ain't gonna stretch your faith. When you say, "Go, God, give me $1 million," then you really gotta stretch your faith. And so, in doing so, I wanted a theme song for the Whole Armor, and I wanted somebody to write it. I asked friends, family, song leaders that I run into to write it, but I needed somebody who was in the industry already to create a song that's gonna make an impact. They're already famous. They already got, a following. So I said, let me reach out to a couple people. And so I was looking through my email, and somebody had interviewed Canty Jones. You know who Canty Jones is?
I don't know.
Okay, so Canty Jones is a gospel singer. He's actually here from Florida, but he lives in Atlanta now. He's
Okay.
from Pompano. And anybody who may listen to gospel music in the early 2000s would know Canty Jones. And so his name came in my email because somebody interviewed him. I was like, man, Canty Jones might be a good person to write the song. I love his music. And so I emailed him, and I didn't get a response back. So I kept searching, and I found an email, and I emailed them. I think there were like 3 or 4 emails I found. I emailed all of them. And about a week later, they responded. It's like, yeah, we'll set up a meeting and see if we could do it. And so he agreed to do the Whole Armor song. I told him what I wanted it to be about. I wanted to match the animation. Before the animation had even existed, I showed him like a little clip of how I wanted it to sound. And he wrote the song to go exactly with the animation. And when you watch the animation, you would think that he made the song first, the animation. Like, it goes so well together that, it seems like it's married. And so with that said, I wanted a hip hop version as well. So I stretched my faith. Have you ever heard of Lecrae?
Yes.
Lecrae is a gospel rapper. And so Lecrae would have been perfect to do a song with me, but he's harder to reach. So I reached out to one of his other artists called 1K Few from Atlanta. And, I just hit him up on Instagram. Hey, this is what I want to do. I need a rapper to do this for this, animation project. Will you do it? And he replied the same night, and I was like, what in the world? Like they actually responded. So he actually wrote the remix to the song. And so what I did, I found out that Candy Jones and 1K was friends, and before I this even happened. And so what I did was I took the Candy Jones original song and I added 1K to the same track, and it became a remix. And so I have two versions of that song, and then I also have an acapella version of the whole Armor song as well. So I tested my faith and seeing if I could get some people in the industry to write a song for me and come together. So the beginning of the animation is actually like a music video right before the animation starts.
Okay.
So you'll see the name of the characters and you'll hear 1K and Candy Jones sing their part, and then it goes into the actual film.
That's great. Awesome. All right. Any questions from the audience? Oh, someone at the door. Can someone go soon? All late to the game. Oh, Isis. You made it back. Come on. Just so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like that the whole time.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question.
Okay, yes. What's your question?
What helps you with your faith?
What helps me with my faith?
Yeah.
So what helps me with my faith is knowing. So okay, I'm an artist, so I think outside of the box in a lot of ways, right? So what helps me with my faith is not knowing what's going to happen. So when I don't know what's going to happen, I actually makes me excited because I know that God can do anything. It's going to come out of nowhere where I can't expect it. So I may say, hey, I'm going to make $1 million. And I'll start thinking, okay, if I do this, that, and that, I can make $1 million. Well, faith allows me to say, none of that's going to work because I'm trying to do it myself. And so I get excited to see how God is going to spin or turn the situation. Not only that, but as I told you, as a faith athlete, I would test my faith in different ways. So I'll tell this quick story just to make it make sense. One day I was at school and I didn't have lunch or lunch money. And I was like, Lord, bless me with $2 so I can buy pizza from the cart. And as I walked down the hallway, maybe like 2-3 minutes later, I found $2 on the ground. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Like, I'm going to believe that was the purpose of that happening. And so when those instances would happen, I would keep doing that. I would test God on some weird stuff. And if you know your Bible says, try me and see it, I'm not faithful. And so I would try God and ask him for random stuff to happen in my life. And then he would supply it. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to believe the next thing. And so I would just keep testing God, because faith to God is like having an ATM, right? If you don't have any money in it, then you can't pull any money out. Faith is the same way. If you don't put any faith into God, then you're not going to be able to withdraw that faith out. And so it's important that we exercise faith, because without faith, the Bible says it's impossible to please God. So he wants you to ask. He wants you to be able to know you have faith, because that's what he's all about. That's what he put inside of it. So for me, I just keep testing it until it gets to where it's supposed to be. And if it don't work, that means it's not for me. And if it does, that means it was.
I have another question. What advice would you give somebody that feels like they're just going through the motions in their Christian journey?
I would say it's time to switch it. As a quote goes, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So if you think you're just going in the same circles, you need to get out of that circle and go to something else. You really have to shake up what you're doing in your life. You have to find new friends, get a new job. You have to really drastically get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the greatest things happen to you when you're in an uncomfortable phase, because that's what you have to grow out of. And I've learned a story about the hermit crab. All right, the hermit crab will go into a shell and they have to be able to outgrow it because they're uncomfortable. And we are the same way. It's when we get into a very uncomfortable place, we have to learn to outgrow that so we can get to the next stage. But as long as we're comfortable, we're going to always be the same person, the same place, never growing.
Yeah.
So the hermit crab is growing, which makes them uncomfortable, and they have to keep growing to keep going through those different phases. And so if you're in the same circle, that means you're not going to be able to grow. And if you want to grow, you got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Gotta shake things up.
Shake it up. Da, 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 da. I love that. Okay. Any other question? Well, no more. You just showed. Okay. So we're good. Well, Shavas, I want to thank you so much. I think that you drop so many jewels and gems. Every time we talk, I'm always learning something, so I appreciate
it.
that. It's beautiful. And now we are looking forward to the screening. If you guys want to catch a screening, you have to follow Shavas on Instagram, YouTube, all of that to find out when his next events are, because you can only see them in person.
You only can see him in person. So what we're gonna do is between now and all of 2025, we're gonna set up a whole bunch of screenings, and you'll be able to see him at film festivals as well, whatever city you're in. And we actually debuted in Miami at the Urban Film Festival.
Yes.
What was that, last month?
That was last month. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
so.
so we got rave reviews. Very excited to be able to do that. But you're only gonna see it in person until we get picked up by the streaming platforms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shavas, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you.
All right. Boom. Let's put on a thing.